Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Valli Parthasarathy from Synergy Veterinary Behavior. I'm looking forward to chatting with you about some summer safety. We're going to talk about some summer tips and tricks for dogs that you might just need a refresher on or that you might not know about. In the next few minutes, we'll cover some heat safety, some risks to think about with swimming when you're out and about, and a couple of other sort of warm weather hazards to kind of keep in mind as you and your pooch are enjoying your time outside. So go ahead and grab your iced coffee or maybe your dog's frozen Kong, and let's go ahead and dive in. Let's see, so let's first talk about sort of the obvious one that people think of, which is overheating and heat stroke. Dogs don't sweat like we do. They cool themselves off mainly through panting, which isn't very efficient in hot weather. If the temperature around you is hot, then being able to pant, it does not help cool you off. High temperatures, like I mentioned, high humidity can be risk factors when it comes to overheating and having heat stroke. And then also think about your short-nosed breeds, our pugs, our bulldogs, our Frenchies. They are very prone to overheating, so it's very important that we make sure that A, they are wearing harnesses or other equipment that is not tightening around their neck or otherwise impeding their ability to breathe, and that we make sure that they are in a cooler environment than typical. Also keep in mind that overweight and older dogs are going to need extra help as well, and they tend to overheat too. So for these dogs that are prone to overheating, remember to keep them, provide shade, provide fresh water, make sure that you maybe exercise them or walk them at cooler times of day, and also think about walking on routes that are a little bit cooler. Maybe avoid taking them on walks if you can and just letting them hang out in the yard for that day. Or maybe taking them, if you are in a more urban area where there's a lot of concrete and overall heat, then maybe taking them to a sniff spot, which is going to be cooler in a lot of cases. We do know that from urban science that's been done is that a lot of urban areas, especially urban areas that do not have trees, tend to be a lot warmer in general. So even within just the Portland area, there's going to be some neighborhoods that are warmer and some neighborhoods that are cooler. So kind of keep an eye on, what your neighborhood is like. Some signs to watch for that your pet may be having difficulty is excessive panting, drooling, lethargy, and collapse. Now we'll be right back. I apologize. My goodness, the joys of Facebook Live. So, since I don't know how to pause Facebook Live, because I don't think you can, that was very exciting. So now I have my water, which I forgot at the start of this. So, good reminder for me, if I'm about to do a live, make sure I have my water. At any rate, as we go through thinking about for our dogs, we want to make sure that if we're seeing excessive panting, drooling, if we're having lethargy, or if we're having collapse in any of these situations of heat, then we got to make sure that we are taking these dogs, helping them be, getting them under shade. If we're having collapse, take them into the vet. It's really important to get these dogs seen as soon as possible. A couple other just general tips is that I tell clients that if you are going onto the pavement or you're going to be taking your dog on a walk on the sidewalk, if you put your hand down and it's too hot for your hand, then it's too hot for their paws. Which is pretty surprising sometimes how hot pavement gets, even if the air doesn't feel as hot, the pavement can be very hot. So keep that in mind as well. Also keep in mind that the environment that you're going into. So for example, if you are taking your dog to a situation that's really crowded or really exciting or really potentially stressful for that dog, so you're going to a festival or something, or a street fair or something like that, keep in mind that if your dog is stressed, they're going to be panting a lot more, and they're also going to be more prone to having heat exhaustion, or getting overheated. So keep these tips in mind, and of course, never leave your dogs in cars, even if the windows are cracked. Dogs in cars with air conditioning is common. But don't ever leave your dog in cars with the windows cracked when it's getting hot. If you have any of your dog's favorite ways to cool off in the summer, feel free to add them. And if you have any tips and tricks yourself. The second tip, or second area that I wanted to chat about, was swimming, because a lot around here, especially in Portland, we have a lot of people who take their dogs swimming. It's a great exercise. It's low impact. Dogs of any age can really benefit from swimming. But there are some risks if we're talking about swimming out and about. Remember that dogs can tire quickly, especially dogs that maybe either haven't been swimming a lot, but even strong swimmers can get tired. You can have hidden hazards like currents or drop-offs or underwater drop-offs of the ground, underwater obstacles, things that the dogs can hit, or floating obstacles that might hit the dog. So keep in mind that swimming is a lot of fun, but there are risks involved with that too. In the salt water, a couple of things to keep in mind specifically is that if your dog drinks too much salt water, then it can potentially result in salt toxicity, too much salt in their body. So that's something to keep in mind. Always have fresh water with you if you take your dog to the beach. And also keep in mind natural factors like riptides, other tidal forces that may come in and grab your dog if you're not watching. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the risks that come up in a little bit when I talk about some of the summer unfriendlies. So some other tips to consider: use a life jacket. Dog life jackets, there are a lot of them out there now. Use it to help promote the floating. If you're going on a boat, if your dog is swimming and if they're a strong swimmer, a life jacket can be very helpful. Rinse it off after swimming so that there isn't sand or other debris that's getting caught on it and causing skin irritation over time. And then, like I was saying before, offer fresh water frequently, and especially before and after swimming. I remember when I was younger and swimming in the ocean, I was really thirsty a lot of the time. So make sure you have fresh water available to them. Something else that I like to warn people about is our dog people and dog families about is there are a couple of freshwater and freshwater saltwater bugs, I call them the summer unfriendlies, that we have to be aware of. So for freshwater, since we're talking about water and swimming, leptospirosis is one of the bugs that we have to be aware of. Leptospirosis is a disease that's spread through the urine of infected animals, often rodents and small mammals, raccoons. This infection can occur also through contact of infected soil or in contaminated bedding. But usually for dogs, contaminated water is going to be the biggest thing that we see, is the most common reason why dogs end up with leptospirosis. Areas with still water or slow water are going to be the areas that are going to have the most risk. So bear that in mind if you're going swimming at ponds, or if your dog is drinking out of puddles. This is where we're going to have the most risk. Some clinical signs include loss of appetite, vomiting, lethargy. The problem with some of these diseases is that they can be a lot of things that cause this. So a lot of times we as veterinarians are going to ask questions about what your dog has been doing. So keep in mind, tell your veterinarian about what activities your dog has been doing that your dog went swimming in a pond, and other signs that can help your veterinarian kind of narrow in on what's going on. With leptospirosis, you can also see jaundice, so yellowing of the whites of the eye, sometimes yellowing of the gums. This means that the liver is affected in this case, and this particular disease can lead to liver and or kidney failure. So you may see increased urination, increased drinking. You might see stiffness and muscle pain as well, and if this goes on long enough, it can lead to death. So antibiotics and supportive care with early treatment is going to be have the best response and best effects of this. Of course, leptospirosis prevented by vaccination. So leptospirosis is becoming more common in the Portland area. So I do recommend having your pet vaccinated for it, and also ideally keep them away from areas that wild animals are going to be frequenting, especially if you suspect like a lot of still water. The other sort of summer unfriendly that's out there is the blue-green algae. So blue-green algae is a toxin-producing cyanobacteria. It can be found in lakes, ponds, rivers. It periodically comes up on the Columbia River and sometimes the Willamette, and it comes up at various times during the year. And oftentimes we'll see notifications for it online, but that's something that's going to be really important to keep an eye on, because that can lead to some significant illness as well. So vomiting, diarrhea, weakness, drooling, tremors, death. So you want to make sure that, again, if your dog's having these issues and having these signs, since it sounds a lot like a lot of other diseases, make sure that you tell your veterinarian what it is that your dog has been doing. Supportive care is typically what's done to help these guys, so fluid, electrolytes, making sure that that toxin can get flushed out of their system. And of course, the big way that we can prevent this is to avoid blue-green algae. In salt and freshwater, salmon poisoning is going to be a big one. This is a Pacific Northwest disease also. And this is caused when a dog eats raw salmon, trout, or one of the other related fish. Typically, they're in the Pacific Northwest streams and rivers at that time, but you can see these coastally as well. But other fish, lamprey, sturgeon, shad, some of the other fish can also cause disease. And so a rickettsial organism that's inside a fluke, it's infected a fluke, which is a type of flatworm. And that fluke is eaten by a fish, and then that fish is eaten by the dog. So signs are vomiting, diarrhea, fever. Again, very nonspecific signs. We can often see these signs within a week of infection or sooner. And it's really important to, again, get early treatment. Big tip for this is don't let dogs eat or scavenge raw fish if they find fish up on the stream. If you come across your dog eating or scavenging raw fish, go ahead and take them into the vet preemptively. Is this something that you've ever heard of before? Is this something that you've known of another dog who's had it? Unfortunately, it's one of the things that we don't hear enough about, but it's something local that we do need to remind ourselves is out there. A couple of other things to think about in general. Of course, we're going to be out and about. They're going to be bugs. So thinking about bee stings, insect bites, your dogs can get allergic reactions. You can have facial swelling, hives, breathing trouble. Go ahead and if your dog is stung by a bee and starts seeing these signs, take them into your primary vet to get treated. Foxtails and grass-awns is another one that we're going to see more as the summer grows. So these are the foxtails that are seeds that when they get into contact with skin and they start burrowing in, this movement of the skin starts causing them to burrow further and further. So they can get burrowed in very, very quickly, and they can travel within the body also, which is really kind of scary. So we want to make sure that if you find foxtails, remove them, try to get rid of them. If they're in your yard, be aware of them when you're out and about. Also thinking about fleas and ticks, those are going to be out and about as well. Thinking also about barbecues and picnics. Barbecues and picnics, we also often have a lot of fatty foods, so there may be a risk for pancreatitis. There can be skewers because people are sticking various vegetables and meats onto those. Those can be ingested because they taste really good at that point, and that can cause trouble. Corn cobs are a big one. They can swallow those whole, and that can lead to obstructions. So can bones. So be really aware of the fact that these picnics, make sure you know what your dog is eating. Or if you can't monitor your dog, maybe have them someplace where they can't get into these foods that are there. So so in summary, things to think about as we want to keep our dogs, as our summer rolls, continues on and we're keeping our dogs safe. Watch for signs of overheating. Be cautious around water. Be aware of these summer baddies, the cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae, and the salmon poisoning. Keep the raw salmon off the menu because our dogs don't need them. And remember some of these other less obvious dangers that we talked about, like the bugs and the barbecues. If you found this helpful, please give it a like or share it, and so that other pet families can keep their pets safe this summer. And of course, drop any questions into the comments, and we'll be happy to answer them afterwards. Thank you so much for joining me. My apologies again for leaving in the beginning, but if we don't have some sort of drama happening, then what are we going to do, right? So excellent. Thank you so much, and if you have any questions, contact us at Synergy Veterinary Behavior, SYN. It's info@synergybehavior.com, SYNERGY behavior.com, or our phone is 503-336-1202. Thank you so much, and keep safe. Bye-bye.